With the reversal of Roe v. Wade, our nation is now a patchwork of abortion rules and regulations, and as we are now seeing in Missouri, bans. In fact, Missouri was the first state in the country to block most abortions after the Supreme Court ruling came down. That's when its trigger law went into effect. Republicans, many of whom called on this change for decades, praised the decision.
We know the political divide on this issue, but I think the most important thing of the decision of the Supreme Court was to put it back to the states. And I think that is the thing more and more I would like to see the federal government let the states decide what's best for them.
That's Governor Mike Parson praising the freedom of choice, now given not to women in Missouri, but the state itself. The issue right now involves the confusion over how far this choice, the trigger ban, goes as healthcare providers and lawyers work to navigate these major changes. Joining me now to help us navigate it all is Yvette Lindgren, law professor with UMKC. Thanks so much for being here and getting to the heart of this matter.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you very much. You know, I've talked with a number of healthcare providers and groups representing healthcare providers. To them, it's up in the air. It's very much a wait and see. What are we going to do? Either they're staying the course right now or trying to find their own way. Is that what you've been seeing, and what are your biggest concerns right now?
Yes, I'm seeing the same thing. One of the things that's so interesting is that Missouri was the first state to ban abortion, and so as I talk to people and people call me and ask, you know, what's going on, I say, well, if you want to see the future of abortion bans, come to Missouri. I mean, we are on the front edge of this issue. We're seeing a lot of confusion. The law is very vague as it is written, and so there's going to be a lot of places where doctors are unclear about what the law is, and they are having to turn, instead of to their own medical judgment or to medical texts or to their long experience and training, to lawyers, to medical ethicists, to their in-house counsel.
We talk about precedent. We know the Attorney General and the Governor have come out and said, no, contraception is okay. But is that enough to get their word for it? I imagine people are going to be wanting an actual legal decision and a judge to rule, okay, here's what is and what isn't allowed.
I mean, it really highlights the problem, which is that the Attorney General, which is of course the lead prosecuting attorney in a state, coming forward and saying, we're not going to prosecute, highlights the problem that doctors are facing criminal charges for guessing wrong or coming too close to the edge.
They could go to prison.
They could go to prison. And so if there is a prosecutor in the state who is an aggressive prosecutor, there's concern. There is a promise that this is within the law, but it's difficult.
Right.
We're putting doctors in an untenable position.
For sure. It's important to remind viewers what Missouri's legal abortion definition is. It involves the intentional termination of the pregnancy of a mother by using or prescribing any instrument, device, medicine, drug, or other means or substance with an intention other than to increase the probability of a live birth or to remove a dead unborn child. Now, we know there is an exception in cases of medical emergencies, but what does this mean? I mean, that is a legal definition, but it's safe to say fairly broad. What does this mean for miscarriages, ectopic pregnancies, and the like?
Yeah, I mean, the place that is the most worrisome is at miscarriage management. Technically, if a person comes in, they are in the process of miscarrying, if there is still a detectable fetal heartbeat, then they cannot do an abortion, which is a life-saving measure in that instance. And so doctors are racing against time in terms of infection setting in or hemorrhage. The question is, how close to death does a patient have to get before an abortion is acceptable in a miscarriage situation? It's impossible to clarify by the law, and an emergency exception is far too broad.
Real quick, you're an attorney for a healthcare professional. What do you tell them to do right now?
Oh, that's a really hard question. I suppose that I would tell them to exercise their best medical judgment, because that is at the end of the day what they are doing, and that they are trained for years to do, and that we will have their back if things go sideways.
All right, well, we know you'll be watching it closely. Yvette Lindgren with UMKC, thank you so much.